Welcome to the first in-depth Might and Fealty video. In this video series, I will give you quite detailed looks at various parts of the game. There will be a new video every few days. A lot of this information is still somewhat rough around the edges. You're looking into an ongoing development process. So any numbers I use should be seen as examples and may change before release. In this video, I will be talking about the economy and trade system of the game. The basic economy idea is that a village or town should work reasonably well without constant micromanagement. Peasants are people with a self-interest, so the economy needs to be self-balancing. It will adapt to any changes with a new equilibrium. So if, say, the food supply changes for whatever reason, population will grow or drop until it reaches a new stable level. This extends to building construction. Most buildings have a population number at which the peasants will begin construction on their own. A large town shouldn't be without tailors or carpenters. Players can, however, make these constructions happen earlier by explicitly ordering the peasants to build something. We do not have levels of buildings, but buildings will automatically grow with population. Basically, a town of 5,000 will have more people working as tailors as a village of 500. You could think of a single tailor of a village growing into Tailor Street in a town. This is a gameplay abstraction because there'd be no fun in having to build new tailors every time your town grows a little. Both construction and running buildings doesn't come free. The main resource it takes is workforce. Peasants that you order to work into construction work cannot work the fields, mines, woods, etc. at the same time, so construction of buildings will reduce the production of resources. This puts a natural instead of an artificial limit on the number of construction projects you can run simultaneously. Instead of a hard number that is just there for gameplay purposes, you can do as you please, but putting too much of your workforce into construction work will lead to population drops and start a downward spiral. Of course, once the situation gets pretty bad, people will simply leave the assigned construction projects and return to the fields in order to feed their families. So your village can never be destroyed by a stupid decision, but you can do considerable damage. The game will warn you of this, of course, but it won't prevent it if you insist. And if you absolutely need to get that stone wall finished before the enemy army arrives, it might even make sense to rush production at the cost of everything else. You can also decide upon the amount of workforce to assign to various projects, so you can build slowly and sustainably, or rapidly, with all the consequences. The same principle extends to the construction of features such as bridges or watchtowers as well as roads. But while all the buildings inside the settlement are abstracted, meaning that we do not actually create a street map of the town and don't worry about where the artillery range should be placed, features and roads are in fact put on the map. That means yes, you can build roads any way you like, and you decide not only if, but also where the river can be crossed. That is not just fluff. Since rivers can only be crossed at bridges, these are important strategic decisions. I've already mentioned it, but there is trade in this game. The trade system is closer to civilization's trade routes than to a trade simulation. As a noble in this world, an individual shipment of something is simply none of your concern. We assume that traders roam the world and bring stuff in small quantities from one place to the other. In gameplay terms, that means that a resource being unavailable will slow down construction work or equipment production. Chainmail armor will need metal, for example, but will never stop it entirely. Economic warfare is still an option because these slowdowns are considerable, but a player should not be frustrated by a total inability to do something. But to really get things moving, you will need more than a small shipment every now and then. You will need to set up trade deals, which represents a constant flow of stuff. The Might and Fealty trade system is entirely freeform, meaning you can create any deal that is physically possible. What that means is you can't ship away more than you have, of course. But the game will not tell you what deals you can make. If you want to exchange 100 food for 500 metal, or 500 food for 100 metal, you can even do trade deals where you get nothing in return, which would represent tribute payments without the need for having a different system for those.
There's a lot of other details in this system, like a non-linear trade cost that makes it viable to play middleman and broker trade deals between distant partners. What this means is that the cost of trading increases with distance, but it gets increasingly more expensive. The increase is more linear. What this means that if A and B are very far away from each other, then trading between them will be very expensive. But if they find a third player, C, somewhere in the middle of them, then a trade from A to Z and then on to B will in total be less expensive in trade costs, and so allow player C to take a few percent of the deal for himself, and it would still be a good deal for A and B to let him be a middleman. This way, trade networks become possible, and lords with estates located at good locations might profit dramatically from becoming a trade center. If they add appropriate buildings like the Merchant District that reduce trade costs, they could easily copy the success stories of some real-world cities. I hope this glimpse into the economy system of Might and Fealty has made the economy side of the game easier to understand and follow. The basic principle is, again, freedom and consequences. Every construction, every trade deal has a cost or consequence, but also benefits and gains. There are many ways to arrive at and create trade deals, and of course just as many to cancel them, including a silent cancellation with the hopes of staying undetected, a form of economic betrayal. Everything is possible. This one point is what I'd like to close with. There are many ways to arrive at a deal. You can send messages and check which resources you have in abundance and the other party needs, and close a mutually profitable deal after some haggling. You can ask your vassals for tribute for the benefit of the realm. To build the more advanced buildings, you will need a large city, and to get a large city, you will need a lot of incoming trade, especially food. You can also arrive with your army and convince your partner that 100 bushels of food in exchange for little or nothing is really a good deal if he takes your spearmen and cavalry into account. You can be an honest trader or a brutal racketeer, but never forget that the other side of the deal is a human player too. Your profit today may well breed an enemy for tomorrow. And that is pure Might and Fealty gameplay. The economy is an integral part of the scheming and plotting and interaction of the game. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to support us. In the next in-depth video, I'll be talking about history and journals, the part of the game where you actually write history. Until then, this is Tom. See you again next time.